you on what I'm looking for, which is analysis. You're all good 1Ls. You've learned the IRAC, right? The issue, rule, whatever, analysis, conclusion. Some shaking your heads no. Should have learned it. You will soon realize that IRAC is a crutch. It's not the way anyone actually writes. You'll learn this soon enough. It will break your hearts. What I am primarily looking for is the A, right? The analysis. The reason why is because by stating the issue and the rule, you're basically giving the analysis away because you know what the correct case is, right? This is a case-driven class. You notice I focus on cases all the time. I will give you a fact pattern that's similar to or different from a case we've studied. You have to explain why. Say, this case is like Pearson v. Post because of X, or this case is similar to, but a little bit different than White v. Brown, whatever the case is. Your analysis, your A, should be driven by case law. That should be the focus of your answer. If you want to say, here are the facts, right? Here's the rule, and here's the analysis, you'll probably run out of space. So the word limit is forcing you to cut to the chase and give me the analysis. Again, case names are very important, but it's not enough to say, Pearson, right? You have to say, why is this case similar to or different than Pearson? That's where the B's become A's, right? When you show that you not only get the black letter law and you get the case holding, but you can actually compare it and contrast it. Because one day, God willing, you will be lawyers. And if there's a case that's governed by a precedent 100%, it's easy. But most cases aren't, right? Most cases have slight deviations from some other case you've studied, and you have to make why that deviation cuts in your client's favor. So that's the basis of it. Julie, did I answer your question?
Yes, sir.
This completely colluded question, which anyway. Yeah, if someone asks a good question, office hours, I always like to repeat it, so that this worked well. Any other questions that are not colluded? Impromptu questions.
We have a lot of different terms.
We do have a lot of different terms. The list is getting longer, my friend.
They're confusing.
I'm going to try my best to make sense of it today. Today's going to be a hard class. I'm not going to pretend it's going to be a hard class. Let's start off with these two questions. These are review. We did two questions today instead of one to see how you all fare on these. So they're very similar, but they're a little bit different. So the first question is this. Blackacre from O to A for life, then to B and his heirs. Okay? What future interest does B have? Remainder or reversion? I'll give you about a minute for this one. So just pick A or B. Okay? Blackacre from O to A. Don't cheat, just look for yourself. What future interest does B have? All right. I'm not going to do the results quite yet. Okay? Now the second question, a little bit different. Question 2. Blackacre from O to A for life. Period. The question now is, what future interest does O have? This is going to be question number 2. Is it a remainder or reversion? Go ahead. Answer yourself. And this is, again, all review. This is nothing new. This is just from last class. Okay, another 10 seconds. Okay, we'll stop it there. All right. So this question at once illustrates how important terminology is. Because there is a right and wrong answer to these questions, right? Let's see how you guys did. Wow. 100. 97. Okay, so I'm very happy with this, right? This is very happy. I've never had 100 in anything question, so I'm actually a good confidence builder, right? Okay, for the very first question, right, very first question, Blackacre promote A for life into Bean as heirs. Okay, who's next? Kendra, are you next?
Well, you asked me a question, I never answered it. So do you want me to go?
You can go.
Okay, what was the question?
Number one.
I put A, remainder, because B is the third party.
Well, be precise here, right? What is the present interest in number one?
The present interest
In number one.
is A for A's life.
Okay, so A is a life estate, right? What's the future interest here?
Future is to B and his heirs.
And how we describe that future interest? What label?
The remainder.
Remainder in?
Be simple.
There you go. Okay. Now, how do you know, Kendra, that's remainder in this case?
Oh, because he's the third party.
Very good. When you have a life estate and the future interest goes to a third party, it's called remainder. Okay? Very good. And Aaron, you want to do the second one, which 100%. I've never had 100 in all my years of using this. That's fantastic. I love that. Makes me very happy. Right? Very happy. Maybe the question too easy. I don't know. But Aaron, why in number 2 is the answer reversion?
Because it goes back to the original owner.
Well, precisely. Who has the present interest here?
The present interest is A.
Okay. And what do you call his present interest? What's A's present interest called? Same as it was before, hasn't changed.
Simple.
Well, what is A's interest?
The
Read.
life estate.
Okay, A is a life estate. Okay, what's the future interest here?
The future interest
Yeah.
is for A or for O.
Who has the future interest here?
O has the future interest.
Okay, what do we call that?
Reverse.
Why do we call the future interest in this case reversion?
Because it goes back to the original owner.
The grantor. Don't say the owner, you're right, but it's the grantor, right? Where after a life estate, the future interest goes back to the grantor, you call it reversion. And do me a favor, don't say it reverts the grantor. If you say that, you'll confuse yourself. Just don't say it. It goes back to make your life a little bit easier. Okay? So that's easy, right? Okay, everyone with me. What's distinct about the life estate is that it's very certain. Everyone dies, right? All of you will die one day. I don't mean to be morbid, but everyone dies. Everyone dies, it's true. So without any question, every life estate will come to a natural termination. You don't disagree with me on this? No one lives forever, all men are mortal, right? Everyone dies. Okay. The next topic we're starting drives students nuts because there is uncertainty. Everyone dies. A life estate comes to an end. You're going to get that remainder eventually when this person dies. There's no question about it. But the next topic involves things that may or may not happen. Okay? So we had our favorite, right? The fee simple absolute, right? The fee simple absolute lasts forever. That the same person holds both the present interest and the future interest, right? That's the fee simple absolute. And then we have the life estate. The life estate only lasts for the duration of a person's life. When the person dies, it either goes to a remainderman or it goes back to the grantor. No problems there. The topic that we're talking about today is another category of estates, which is the fee simple defeasible. Right? The fee simple defeasible. Just contrast these. Fee simple absolute versus the fee simple defeasible. Now, this word defeasible, right? It's not a word that we use today, right? It's not a word that we would ever use. But What you need to know about the word defeasible means it might end early. It might last forever. It might not. But the duration of a fee simple defeasible varies, right? Again, with a fee simple absolute, it lasts forever, there's no question. With a life estate, it lasts for life of a person, no questions asked. But the fee simple defeasible has a chance, a possibility of ending abruptly. Okay? So I'll give you an example, a very easy example. O conveys Blackacre to A so long as Blackacre used for school purposes. Okay? Never saw Blackacre, right? I always say Blackacre, so I always mess up. O conveys Blackacre to A so long as Blackacre is used for school purposes, right? This is different from anything we've ever discussed before. It's almost like between a life estate and a fee simple absolute. Because what if for the rest of eternity, forever and ever and ever, Blackacre is used for a school? Then A gets to keep it. And A's heirs gets to keep it. And A's heirs' heirs get to keep it. No problem there. But what happens if they convert it to a factory? They build a warehouse on it. It's no longer being used for school purposes. The interest cuts short. And that's the most important thing you have to remember about the defeasible estates. They can cut short during the ownership. They don't last forever. Okay? Everyone with me so far? Here's a second thing to keep in mind. Because the interest might cut short, someone has to have that future interest, right? In the present interest, A has a fee simple defeasible, no problem. But someone has to have the future interest down the road. Because at any point in time, as a property lawyer, you must account for the present and the future interest. You have to account for both. So in this case, right, O conveys Blackacre to A, so long as it's used as a school. We know that A has a present interest of a fee simple defeasible. That's easy. But what happens if it's converted from a school to a factory? It would go back to O. O has a future interest. But is it certain, right? Is it guaranteed that O will ever get it back? No. It's possible. It's possible it might go back, but it's not certain. Come with me, right? What you're seeing here, and I'm doing for you very deliberately and carefully, I hope, is explain to you the building blocks, okay? The present interest, in this case, is what's called a fee simple determinable, okay? A fee simple determinable. Now, you're going to say, Blackman, what's going on? The feasible determinable? I know. It's a pain in the neck. They sound a lot alike. Defeasible is the umbrella, right? There are lots of different types of defeasible estates. There actually are 3 types, right? I'm not going to do them all today. I'll do 2 of them today. But there are 3 types of defeasible estates. One of the defeasible estates types is what's called the fee simple determinable. And with this, my friends, you have to memorize it. There's no way to logic this out and to try and reason it. There's none. Okay? What makes this determinable? Uses words like duration. See? You gotta be careful. Duration words, like so long as, while, during. When you see this sort of conveyance with words like so long as, during, while, you have to say to yourself, this is going to be a fee simple determinable. Okay. Everyone with me so far? I know it's not natural. What you have to train yourself is when you see these sorts of grants from O to A, so long as whatever, say, oh, that's giving a fee simple determinable. You got to memorize it. There's no way around it, unfortunately. It's been torturing law students for hundreds of years. You're next in line. Okay. But that only accounts for half of the equation. That only accounts for the present interest. You always need to account for both the present and the future interest. Okay? Now, we said this a moment ago. Is there any guarantee that O ever gets it back? No. O only gets it back if the condition's violated. That is, if a non-school purpose is used. There's a possibility it goes to O, but it's not a certainty. So you can imagine some genius judge said, I have an idea. Let's call this the possibility of reverter. My God, right? The possibility of reverter. Wait a minute, Josh. Didn't we do at the beginning of class reversion? Right. This is why I said don't say it reverts back. At least half of you in the midterm will confuse these two, I promise. It happens every year. Maybe you'll prove me wrong. I hope you prove me wrong. The reversion is the future interest after a life estate when it goes back to the grantor. That's reversion. A possibility of reverter is the future interest after a fee simple determinable. Let me say it for you again. When the present interest is a fee simple determinable, you need to know that the future interest will be a possibility of reverter. Don't confuse reversion and possibly reverter. I promise you, someone will write possibility of reversion. That's not a thing, right? That's not a thing. You can't make up things. You're not allowed to do that. Only I am, right? There's no such thing as a possibility of reversion. It's possibility of reverter. And the reason why the word possibility is there is it doesn't have to happen. It only happens if the condition is violated and the school is no longer, so the land's not used for school purposes. Okay. Everyone with me? You need to memorize this. I wish there was a way for this to make sense. There isn't. Yes, Julian?
And the possibility of reverter, there's no fee simple with it. Nothing else except...
I didn't get there yet, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
So, who's next? Sidra. Okay, so let's say, Julie, so my very next point, right? I'm trying to do layers here. So Sidra, let me ask you this question, please, okay? It says, O conveys black ink to A so long as black ink is used for school purposes. Let's say that A built a factory. Then what happens? And what is O's estate at that point? What's his interest in the land? Say, yeah, you're right, fee simple. So to be precise, this is Julian's question. You'd say he has a possible reverter in fee simple. What that tells you is that when the condition breaks, it comes back to O in fee simple. The reason why this matters is that you can actually have a future interest in life estate. Right? You can say when the condition's violated, it goes to Joe for his life, and then to someone else for his life. And it gets really complicated. We're not there yet. But to be precise, this one's easy. The future interest is fee simple. Everyone with me? All right? Again, you need to do a few things in your head. I'm going to walk through these very carefully. When you see a conveyance like this, right? It's not a life estate. It's not fee simple. It's going to be fee simple defeasible. And you say, okay, what kind of defeasible estate is it? Aha. So long as. during, while, these magic words, right? You see, okay, that tells me it's a fee simple determinable. And they're pairs. When there's a fee simple determinable in the present, the future's got to be the possibility reverter. And in this case, it's in fee simple. It doesn't have to be, but it is. All right, everyone with me? Everyone okay with this so far? I know it's not pleasant, it's not intuitive. You wish you were hunting foxes again, don't you, right? But this is what you gotta learn. Okay? Everyone with me, okay? I'm gonna throw another one in a minute if you don't stop me. Everyone okay? All right. Now I'm going to change this hypothetical just a little bit, right? Here, let me so you can see both at the same time. So okay, that was number one. Number two is it says O conveys Whiteacre to A, but if it is not used for school purposes, to B and his heirs. Actually, no. Let me make a little bit. I'll make it easier if you're right. Okay, then make it easier. Then O has a right of entry. Make it a little bit easier for you. I'll complicate it later for you. Okay. Keep it simple. All right. So you see, they're very simple. Similar, right? Example number one. O conveys Blackacre to A so long as Blackacre is used for school. And the second one, O conveys Whiteacre to A, but if it is not used for school purposes, then O has a right of entry. Everyone see the difference, right? What's the difference? One uses the word so long as. One uses this word but if, right? These are your magic words, so long as and but if. Those are your magic words. Okay? There's also something else, right? The first one doesn't really say what happens to O. It doesn't really spell it out. The second one provides a path by which O can reclaim the property. Okay? So there are two big differences, right? First one is a so long as versus but if. And this one doesn't say how O gets it back, but this one spells out a path. Okay? We call this the present interest a fee simple subject to conditioned subsequent, or subsequent as some people like to say. The fee simple subject to a condition subsequent. Now, you might remember this from logic in college, condition precedent, condition subsequent. Does this sound vaguely familiar? Okay. Subsequent, right? The word subsequent means after, right? Sub, after. Pay attention to this very carefully. Where does the condition appear? After the comma. This is very important. It says, O conveys Whiteacre to A, comma. The condition's right after it. The but if comes right after the comma. This will matter because occasionally later in the semester, the condition comes before. That makes a difference. But here, the condition comes subsequent, after the fee simple, right? O conveys Whiteacre to A. Imagine they just stop the sentence right there, right? Let's say they only have this first part. O conveys Whiteacre to A, period. That would look a lot like a fee simple, wouldn't it? That'd be a fee simple, I think. But instead of a period, put a comma. You say comma, but if. The condition comes subsequent to the fee simple. That's why it's called a fee simple subject to a condition subsequent. All right? Lights come on, right? The condition subsequent the condition is after or subsequent to the fee simple. This one's actually a little bit easier to remember than the other one. The other one, the name doesn't help you at all. This one actually helps you a little bit with the name. Okay. The condition is subsequent after the fee simple. So you have a fee simple, comma, condition. Okay. And what's a condition? You have these words. But if, right? Or on the condition that. These sorts of words, provided, however, these sorts of words which are conditional. And I want you just to see the difference, right? These are duration, measuring time, so long as, while, during. These concern a condition, but if this happens, or on the condition that happens, however, if this happens, right? You see the sense, the different types of words. Yes, Megan, and then something after that.
Is there any difference between how and when the property is given back?
We'll get there. We'll get there. It does. There's a huge difference. Something.
Just a simple question. Is this the third fee simple divisible? Is this the third?
This is the second one. So there are two so far, right?
Also, this is still part of the...
There are three. Okay, I'll answer your question like this, right? There are three types of fee simple defeasibles, right? Here. I'll go back up here. There are three types, okay? There's a fee simple determinable, the fee simple subject to a condition subsequent, and the fee simple subject to an executory interest or limitation. I'm not doing the third one today. It's in your reading. It shouldn't be there. It'll confuse you more than it has to. I'll do that later, probably next week. Okay? But there are three types of fee simple defeasible. There's a fee simple determinable, the fee simple subject to condition subsequent, and the fee simple subject to the executory limitation. Let me make a recommendation. Don't abbreviate these. You're going to want to write, FSD, right? FSCS, FSSE. Don't. Please trust me. You're gonna put yourself in a panic if you do this, right? Right? If you start writing FSD, POR, you're not gonna have a freaking clue what you're talking about after a while. Just at least now, you can ignore me later. In your notes, don't abbreviate, just spell the damn things out. It'll make your life a little bit easier. Okay? Don't make stuff harder on yourself by using these initials, because you're not gonna save any time. Okay? Let's come back here. All right? The fee simple subject condition subsequent, that's the present interest. We always ask ourselves, what's the future interest, right? This one's a little bit easier because it tells you it. It's called the right of entry. Okay? The right of entry. You'll sometimes see right of re-entry, which I think one of the cases called it that. It's the same thing. It's identical. Okay? The right of entry. All right? When you know that the present interest is a fee simple subject to condition subsequent, the future interest has to be a right of entry. They pair up. They're pairs. This one's a little bit easier because it tells you, it's right of entry. So actually, again, this one's a little bit easier for students to grasp. Okay? And to be precise, it's a right of entry in fee simple. Simple. Okay. Everyone with me so far? Now, the biggest difference, I think this was Megan's question a minute ago. The biggest difference between the fee simple determinable and the fee simple subject to condition subsequent is how O reclaims the property. That's the biggest difference, is how O reclaims the property. Okay? With the fee simple determinable, when the condition is violated, it's automatic. Right? As soon as the school is used for the land is used for non-school purposes, right? As soon as they build a factory there, it immediately goes back to O, for his heirs. O doesn't have to take any action to reclaim it, right? It's his. It's a very violent, right? It's a very violent estate because it's instant, right? maybe A forgot about it. Maybe A decides, the school's nice, let me build a factory. Didn't even know. Strict liability offense goes right back. Okay? The word determine means to end quickly, right? You determine its fate. It ends quickly. That's more or less where the name came from, right? So it's when the condition is violated, it automatically goes back to O. With the fee simple subject to condition subsequent, it's not automatic. You must exercise what's called the right of entry. The fact that's called the right of entry means you have to do something. You have to actually go to court and petition for you to enter the land. It's not automatic. Okay, everyone see the difference. It's a very important difference. In fact, the first case illustrates it well. Depending whether it's automatic or not, resolves the very first case. So let me walk through this one more time before we get to the case, all right? When you see a grant, it says, O is black extra A. There was a period there, you say, aha, fee simple, we're done. But there's a comma. After the comma, there's a word of duration, so long as. Say, aha, this is a fee simple determinable. You need to memorize that the fee simple determinable is matched up with the possibility of reverter. Not reversion. Don't say reversion. Possibly reverter. And when the condition is violated, it's an automatic. It goes right back to O. No legal actions needed. The second one, you have this fee simple subject, condition subsequent. Again, the condition comes after the comma, comes after the grant of the fee simple. And you're going to need to memorize that the future interest that matches up with the fee simple subject to condition subsequent is the right of entry, also called right of re-entry. You'll see it either way. I'll accept either one. I say right of entry, fewer letters, less things to screw up, right? But this is not automatic. You got to take some action. You got to go to court to exercise this right of entry. I think I got that out. Yeah, Neiman, go ahead.
It's a possibility of reverter, but it is reversion.
Don't call it that.
But
Don't call it that, please. I know what you're saying. You're not wrong, my friend. If you call it reversion, you'll confuse yourself. Just say it's a possible reverter. And the reason why is reversion is certain to happen, right? Go back to our first question today. Which one was it? Right here, right? A is going to die. Without any doubt, A will die. And once A dies, it goes back to O or O's heirs. There's no question it is a reversion, right? Here, it's only a possibility. Because it's entirely possible that for eternity, to infinity and beyond, right, it's a school forever and ever and ever. So, there's no guarantee. And this actually makes a difference. Because at common law, let's go back to our first question for today, right? At common law, if you had a remainder, you could sell it inter vivos during life. At common law, if you had a reversion, you could sell it inter vivos, no problem. But there are restrictions, right? At common law, you could not transfer inter vivos during life either a possible reverter or a right of entry. You couldn't transfer those inter vivos, right? Why could you not transfer them? Because they weren't guaranteed to happen, right? The law didn't like selling stuff that was speculative, that maybe happened, maybe not, right? The important point is at common law, you couldn't transfer these, so it makes a really big difference how you label it and what they actually are. Today, you can be transferred. I checked Texas. As far as I can tell, you can transfer these in Texas. So this is more of a common law issue. I think only a couple states still have the old rule. In fact, Illinois, that's why that case in Illinois is one of them. But at common law, you could not transfer these interests. It actually made a really big difference how they were labeled. All right, Julian.
Is this why the White v. Brown case was decided like it was? When the one with the house that couldn't be sold that the person, she could live in it, and then they were trying to decide who the house went to after she died.
Yeah, I like the way you're thinking about it. Not exactly. In fact, it was actually the second case today, the Toscano case with the right of alienation. The problem is, so let me take Jolene's question, right? What if the thing like this said from Jesse to Sandra, so long as Sandra lives in the house. Right, to make it more better. Blackacre from Jesse to Sandra, so long as Sandra lives in Blackacre. Okay, I always get in trouble making this up on the fly. I think that's right. I think this is what you're getting at. So here we have, right? Blackacre from Jesse to Sandra, so long as Sandra lives in Blackacre. Now, this is inter vivos. This is during life. Jesse's will was testamentary, after death. So the rules are different. The reason why is that in the will, there was no present interest given. Here, there's a present interest given during Jesse's life. So it would be a very different story. But let's say Jesse wanted to do this during life. So Blackacre from Jesse to Sandra, so long as Sandra lives in Blackacre. What that means? Once Sandra dies, I think there's a possibly reverter back to Jesse's heirs. Or if Sandra sells Blackacre, I think it goes back to Jesse's heirs at that point. But you see the difference. This is inter vivos. The case last week was testamentary, so it's a different story. Questions? All right. I want you to start putting in your notes a table that looks like this. What are you laughing?
I just saw the table and I'm like, okay.
It gets longer and longer and longer. We'll start it simple, okay? By the time of your midterm, you should be required to fill this out by memory. You'll have your notes with you, but that's not going to help you, right? And this is my own notes. You know, maybe different people might like it differently, but these help me keep this straight after all these years. On the left column, I'm listing the various estates you've learned. We're not going to do this last one today, but you've done 1, 2, 3, 4. You've done 4 different estates. There are a lot more than this. Okay, and in fact, I'm warning you now, this table runs out very quickly. It's only useful for another week or so. After a week, it doesn't help, but it helps for you now to get you acclimated. I want you to think of 3 aspects. Duration, how long it lasts for. What the future interest is, right? This is the present interest. What's the future interest? And what are the magic words, right? The words used to convey such an interest. All right? Just walk with me here, okay? Joyce. Okay, let's start real simple, right? With a fee simple absolute, what is the duration of such an estate? How long does the fee simple absolute last for? Yes, ma'am. Very good. Forever. Okay? And Joyce, give me one more, please. What are the words used to convey a fee simple absolute? How would I describe in a conveyance? Very good. Right? I say to A and his heirs. Very good. So, Joyce, in this case, who has the future interest? Louder? Yeah, exactly. A's heirs. Right? A's heirs have the future interest. Whoever that is, heirs aren't determined until death, so A can specify who that is, but A can specify. Okay? Straightforward, right? Simple. Okay, Madison? Let's go a little more complicated, okay? What is the duration of a life estate?
For the life of the individual.
Very good. So I say the life of A. Make it easy. And what's the magic words for a life estate?
For life.
Right, exactly. And we can do this in 2 ways, right? We can say to A for life, say from O to A for life. And Shana, in this example, who has a future interest? Very good. What do we call that?
Remainder. Or reverter.
Oh, you did it.
Sorry, yeah, remainder.
Which one is it?
Reverter.
No, not reverter.
It is remainder.
So, what are your 2 choices?
At this point, reversion.
What'd you say?
I said reverter.
You said it. I'm not yelling at you. It's okay. We're all going to do it, I promise. But let us make this mistake in class together as friends and not in the exam, okay? The future interest here is for O's heirs, and it's called reversion. You see how easy it is to confuse them. And again, I'm not mad at her. You're all going to do this, I promise. But when the future interest follows remainder, the future interest follows a life estate, it's reversion. Okay, reversion. Okay. What if it's like this? From O to A for life. This is for Gabe. Okay, from O to A for life, and then to B's heirs. Okay, what's going on here, Gabe? Who has the future interest in this case?
B's heirs.
Very good. And what do we call that one?
Possibility of reverter.
No. Go back to the very first question. 100% you got this right. 100 remainder. Why is it a remainder? Why do we call it? You're right. Why is this called remainder?
Because you're getting the interest, like the future, you're gaining the future interest.
Gabe, what's the difference between reversion and remainder?
Reversion is as like if it doesn't say like and his heirs or it doesn't present a
No. What's the difference between reversion and remainder? We did this 100%. You got it right. All of you got it right.
that reversion goes back to the original.
There it is. This is reversion because it goes back to O. Who gets it here, Gabe? The grantor?
No,
Who gets it?
B's heirs.
And how would we describe these heirs? What are they? Are they one of the parties originally a party to this agreement?
Yes.
Lauren? How do we characterize B's heirs? Why is this remainder, not reversion? All of you got it right, 100%. You guys got this question right 20 minutes ago.
I feel like I understand it. I just don't know how to put it into.
It's a very easy phrase. Go check your notes. What did I say at the beginning of class between reversion and remainder? I said it 5 times. Very beginning of class when we first did the example. 100% you got it right. 97% maybe. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah.
What's the question? Are you asking because it's a third party?
That's the answer. It's called a remainder because it goes to a third party after life estate. When you have a life estate and it goes to a third party, right? When a life estate goes to a third party, it's remainder. Otherwise, it's the grantor, it's reversion. Okay? Everyone's made. Again, 100% of you got this question right, so I expect you to know this, but you need to know it. You know, as you add more terms, you can't forget the old ones, right? You can't first in, first out. You need to internalize all these. Okay? Everyone with me? All right, let's do the next one. So this will be for Daniel. So Daniel, I'm going to do this one for you, right? I say from O to A, so long as Blackacre is used as a school. Okay? I've not told Blackacre correctly once today. Not once. All right. So this is a fee simple determinable. Daniel, how do you know this is a fee simple determinable?
It was so long as.
Right. These are our magic words, right? So long as. When you see something like this in your grant, you just need to memorize this. All right. So what's the duration then, Daniel, of this estate?
Until the event happens.
Yeah, we'll say so long as Blackacre is used as a school. Okay? Now, Daniel, here comes a hard one. What is our future interest here?
Possibility of reverter.
Very good. Possibility of reverter in who? Who has it?
O.
For O. And in what?
In fee simple.
Very good. The possibility of reverter for O in fee simple. Very good. Now, oh wow, that's a creative name tag. Is that Michelle?
Yeah.
Wow, that's even hard to read. That's okay. Michelle, I always like creativity. Michelle, what does O have to take any steps in order to reclaim Blackacre if it's not used as a school?
No, he doesn't. It's automatic.
Bingo. Okay, that's a key factor. With the possibility of reverter, it's automatic. Okay? It's automatic. There's no steps that have to be taken. It happens by itself. It's automatic. Okay, everyone with me so far. Any questions on this row? Everyone, these two are good. Okay, how do you? Next one, okay? So I'm going to go like this. It says, from O to A, but if Blackacre used for non-school purposes, O has a right of entry. Something like that, okay? So again, this is a fee simple subject to condition subsequent. What's the duration of this estate? How long does it last?
Only as long as it's used.
Don't say as long as. I want you to use the words in the actual grant, though. What are the magic words here?
Used for.
No,
But if.
that's it, right. These are your magic words, right? Right, so A has it, but if A uses it for non-school purposes, right, A loses it. Okay? Now, idea. What is the future interest in this case? What do we call it?
The right of entry.
Very good, and it's actually right there. It's listed in the actual conveyance, but it's called a right of entry. And you have to memorize this, and just finish it up. What must happen in order for O to get it back?
You must exercise it.
Very good. We say that there's a right of entry for O in fee simple, but it's not automatic. They must exercise the right of entry, which means you go to court. Don't worry about the details. I'm not so concerned about that here. You have to know it's not automatic. Okay. After class, I want you to go back and try and fill in this table from scratch, just from memory. Go. Just take a piece of paper, write it out. You'll need to know this backwards and forwards. Why? If I give you on exam something like this, you say, oh, it's a fee simple subject and subsequent, and here's the future interest. You have to be fluent back and forth. You have to be able to fill in this entire table from memory. I don't have any shortcut for you. That's what you have to do for now. So questions on this? Questions on this table? I'll probably start class off on Tuesday with something like this, so just be ready for it. Yeah, Joyce.
You're not gonna take that down, right?
I'm going to leave it up here for the rest of the day, and it's online forever.
Okay.
In perpetuity. It's there forever. If you click on the class lecture notes, that link right there, this will be here forever and ever and ever. You can look at this entire thing over and over again. I'm going to leave it here forever, or at least till next 45 minutes. Yeah, Brittany.
The book outlines, or it states that the possibility of a reverter for a simple determinable, that it can be expressly retained or by operation of law. Can you explain that?
Are you talking about for conveyances? Is that what you're asking about?
Yeah.
Right. So a common law, you couldn't sell a possibly reverter, but today, modern law, you can. So if you want to read again what you're asking.
It said that it could be expressly retained, so like in like how it was written. So I assume that's what that means. But by
Yeah.
operational law, what would that mean?
Oh, I think what they're getting at there is if the grantor wasn't very clear what they were intending, the courts can then construe it as if it were a possible reverter. I think that's what it's getting at. I think so. I'm not exactly sure, but I think that's what it's getting at.
Okay. They said it for the condition subsequent too, so I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good, thank you. It's a good segue to the first case, the Mahrenholz case, because very often when people write these various conveyances, they don't do it in a very good fashion. Like poor Miss Jessie lied, right? She wrote her thing in a way, they totally ignored what she wrote. Here, I think they actually got at more or less what the parties intended, I think, at least better than the White case. Other questions?
It's not a question, it's just my OCD. Do you mind backing up the reversion onto that?
Oh man, what do I do? It's actually a page break.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, it's actually a page here.
Darn.
Here. Better?
Oh, much better, thank you.
I actually had the same OCD. I didn't feel like fixing it, but you're welcome. Yeah, it's a page break. Now I think it's fine. Look, you're in law school for a reason. You like details. It's actually for all the professions in the world, attention to detail is very important in this one. So, and formatting too.
You probably think it's a pain in the neck when you have to format your briefs with the margins and the fonts and the spacing. It actually matters. Courts have very precise rules of how documents have to appear. And some courts have, instead of a word count, which I think is fair, a page count. So trying to fit stuff on a page, right? I've had briefs before where like I have to delete one word and I save an entire page of space because it doesn't jump over to the next. So every character spaces, it all matters. All right, everyone with me so far? All right, let's do the Mahrenholz case. The facts of this one, again, are complicated. We'll walk through these very carefully. Arlette, you want to give me the facts, please, in the Mahrenholz case?
Yes. So first we have W.E. and Jenny Houghton, who executed a warranty deed that they convey 1.5 acres out of 40 acres to the Hutton School grounds. This land, what they put in the deed is this land is to be used for school purpose only, otherwise to revert to grantors herein. That's the first part.
Okay.
After that, they die, and they Huttons left as their only legal son, Harry Hutton, so they leave him everything else. And after that, in May 30th, the district no longer holds classes there. They use that land for property, for storage. So that's that. And then after that, they convey W.E. Jenny and Hutton, before they died, they conveyed to Earl and Madeline Jackman the remaining 38.5 acres of the 40-acre tract. The deed conveyed also to the Jackmans the reversionary interest that Huttons held in the school land.
Okay, very good. All right, thank you for that very, very good recitation of the facts. So everyone get what's going on here, right? The Huttons held 40-odd acres of land. They chopped off 1.5 acres, and they wrote this conveyance. The land to be used for school purposes only, otherwise to revert to grantors herein. Okay? And the remainder of the land was sold to the Jackmans. So the question is this. What kind of estate is this? Is it a fee simple determinable? Or is it a fee simple subject to condition subsequent? If you notice, this doesn't fit in with any of the words I gave you before. Now, wouldn't that be easy, right? This is not so long as, during, while, but if. It's not. It says, this land to be used for school purposes only. Okay. Now, before we actually get to how best to read it, actually, I'm a little bit less interested in that question. I want to ask, why does it matter, Anne? And why does it matter whether it's a fee simple subject to condition subsequent, or if it's a fee simple determinable? I'm asking you, yeah. Why does it matter which one it is?
Because when they stopped using it as a school, then the ownership would go back
When?
to the grantor.
When? How quickly?
If it's determinable automatically,
That's it.
if it's subject to a condition and subsequent, then only if the grantor chooses to exercise the authority.
Okay. That's exactly correct. Okay. In this case, right, in Illinois, you can't convey these future interests. You can't convey a fee simple determinable. You can't convey, you can't convey the possibly reverter, and you can't convey the right of entry. You can't convey it. So one person and one person alone had the future interest, right? Oscar, who had the future interest in this case for all those years?
It would be,
who had the future interest all these years? Who's the only person who could have it? The son, yeah. Harry. Harry, right? Harry. The son inherited the future interest from his parents. They died intestate, right? So let me rewrite this for you so it makes a little bit more sense. Okay? Okay? So let me rewrite this so it makes a little more sense. Okay. So Blackacre from parents to school to be used for school purposes only, semicolon, otherwise to revert to parents herein. It's the same thing, I'm just putting names in so it's a little bit easier to read, okay? The future interest here, right, whatever it is, cannot be conveyed inter vivos. Let me say it again. Whatever the future interest is, we'll argue about that in a minute, it cannot be conveyed inter vivos. It can only be inherited. And the only heir in this case is Harry Hutton, the son. So when his parents died, the son received that future interest. Whatever it is, we'll define it in a minute. The son received it. Julian.
The future interest can't be done inter vivos because of
Illinois law prohibited it. Yeah, in modern Texas you can do it. But at the time, Illinois, conveyance inter vivos of these future interests was not allowed. With me, okay?
So if this was Texas, the parents could have traded in the will for somebody else to get it, not the heir?
Yeah. Well, forgetting a will, if the parents wanted to, they could have sold it to the Jackmans, right? That's the case, right? The Jackmans thought that they got the future interest, but Illinois law doesn't permit that, because Illinois law doesn't permit the conveyance of the future interest in this case. The only way that can be transferred is upon death to the heir. In this case, it's the son, Harry. Everyone with me so far? Everyone with me so far, okay? So again, Blackacre from parents to school to be used for school purposes only, otherwise to revert to parents herein. Whatever the future interest was, it belongs now to the son, right? And we have two options, right? Either this is a fee simple determinable, followed by a possibility of reverter, or it's a fee simple, subject to a condition subsequent, followed by a right of entry. They call it a right of re-entry. It's the same thing. Right? Those are our two options, A or B. Right? Yeah, Julian?
Is there a time limit on the right of entry?
Oh, I'm going to get to there in a few minutes. Yeah, I'll get to there in a few minutes. There is. Okay? So, Shinoda, let me ask this question, right? If it's a fee simple determinable, followed by a possible reverter, what happens the second that the school is converted to a non-school purpose?
The defendant would get it immediately.
The heir, right? So the heir, Harry, would own Blackacre immediately, right? Right? It determines, it cuts right away. Okay? Now, if you remember, who did Harry sell his interest to?
So he sold his interest to, I don't know where he's from, but Mahrenholz?
Yeah, Mahrenholz, exactly, right?
The remaining.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So here's what happened, right? Harry sold his interest to Mahrenholz. Here's a very basic rule. You can only sell property that you actually own. Duh, right? But it strikes me as an important thing. In this class, on this exam, some will try to sell something they don't own. So if it was a fee simple determinable, that means Harry had it already, and he could convey his interest, which is basically a fee simple at this point, to the Mahrenholzes. Right? So the Mahrenholzes are saying, aha, this is fee simple, the terminal. That's what the Mahrenholzes wanted. Everyone with me so far, right? The school did not want this result, right? Marcos, what did the school want, right? What would the school prefer? What kind of estate? What of these two, which would the school prefer?
Oh, they would prefer the second one.
How come?
Because with the second one,
Well, with a right of entry, would Harry own it right away? It got turned to a non. How come?
because they said that he didn't express interest in the land.
Well, not just express interest. What does Harry have to do to get it?
He has to re-enter and express.
There you go. Okay. So, with the right of entry, Harry would not own it immediately. He would have to take steps to enter, which means going to court. All right? So, Marcos, finish it up. If Harry didn't actually own it, could he convey that interest to the Mahrenholzes?
No.
Exactly. So in this option, the sale to the Mahrenholzes is void. I can't spell today. Mahrenholz, whatever. You know what I mean. The sale to the Mahrenholzes is void. He didn't have it yet. Until he takes the steps to convey it, poor Harry has nothing to sell. So you see the two options, right? Depending on how the court goes about reading this conveyance makes a very, very big difference of how it should be construed. In fact, it decides the outcome of the case. Now, Jolene asked me a question a minute ago. You ask your question again, please? I remember what it was. So Jolene's question, see, we have a routine at this point, right? Jolene's question is statute of limitations, right?
Right.
You have a statute of limitations for the right of entry, whatever it is in the jurisdiction, 5 years, 10 years, right? If you don't bring your cause of action, hey, come on in. Everyone, say hi, my mom and dad. They're coming to visit from New York. Hi, Mom.
We're 18 and there's another person.
Oh. I'm off today. Well, thank you so much. I'm sorry. I'll just sit in the back and I'll call you. Yeah, they were supposed to be here 2 hours ago, but their flight got delayed. So unfortunately, but I appreciate it. Good drive here? Everything was okay? Okay, well, we'll get there later, okay? So, they come visit every year. It's okay. So, it's true. So the question, Jolene's question was this, right? Is there a statute of limitations, right? If the school is converted to a factory and Harry learns about it and he sits on his butt for 10 years, guess what? He waited too long and he loses out. That's why it's such a big difference. With a fee simple determinable, it's immediate. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. There's no question. But with the right of entry, there is a time limit. And if a person doesn't exercise his right in a given time, he loses out.
Where did it go?
You tell me. Who gets to keep it?
I guess whoever had
The school.
present interest, right.
At that point, the present interest becomes a future interest as well. You keep it, right? It basically merges into a fee simple. You lose it. There's also adverse possession squatting. You'll get that next semester, which also comes into play. But the reason why the law doesn't like the fee simple determinable is because it's violent. It happens right away. The law much prefers the second one, the fee simple subject, condition subsequent. Why? It puts a burden on the heir to actually do something about it. Maybe he doesn't want it, right? Maybe he doesn't care anymore. If he doesn't take steps to reclaim it, it stays with the present interest owner. And that's much more preferable, right? Because again, let's just say one day he decides, we're going to close the school for a couple months and we'll reopen it in 6 months later, right? Is it being used for school purposes? If it's empty, you lose it. And you see this other case in Utah, right? People forget. No one reads these old instruments, and especially when they're written in such a funny manner. Yeah, Matt. Yeah, varies by state. Okay. Yeah, it's usually 10 years, might be 5. It varies.
And then, right of entry, so say there's like a negative aspect for the land, like whoever owns it is fined or something, so they would be able to not exercise right of entry to avoid that also, right?
Well, the right of entry can't be exercised until the condition's breached.
Right.
Only when the condition's breached can they enter.
So I'm saying that if there was some kind of liability with the land, like that would be a reason that they wouldn't want to exercise their right of entry, and they wouldn't be.
Well, they don't have to, right? Let's say Harry didn't want it anymore, right? Which is what happened, right? He eventually gave it to the school. If Harry didn't want it anymore, say, you know what, school, you can have it. I'm just not going to exercise my right. That's fine. You can do that. But with the determinable, it's his no matter what. He doesn't have to take any action. Yeah, Julian.
How can you sell something that you may never own?
Oh, they do it all the time. It's called fraud. Right?
They're both conditional, right? They're pretty simple, determinable.
Well, again, this is why a common law, you couldn't sell a future interest after fee simple defeasible. You couldn't sell a possibly reverted common law. Today you can, right? But you sell it with the understanding that it may never come to fruition. It may never actually mature.
So for the statute of limitations, it starts running whenever you find out, so whenever Harry finds out, or whenever the school starts doing non-school things.
Right, so with the burden, right? That sounds so wrong, right? But the burden is on Harry here. He has to be on the lookout to guard his future interests, right? Because, you know, his parents died. His parents left him something in their estate. He has his future interest. But you use it or you lose it. If he doesn't keep his eye open for this every day and then exercise his right, he'll never get it. Which is why you might imagine that the Huttons, right, they prefer the former one, right? They said, I don't want my son to have to worry about this stressful thing. Let's just put a fee simple determinable, and then once it's over, it's over. And my son gets it right away, which I think is what the court more or less hinted at. The second one, the fee simple subject to condition subsequent, puts a significant burden on the son, that he has to keep an eye on it and then go to court. Maybe he forgets, maybe he loses track of it. So you know why the parents probably prefer the former, that's violent, that once it's not used, it goes back to the son. So questions on this? Yes, Rob. I'm sorry, what's it? I didn't understand your question. So the right of entry is usually governed by statute of limitations in the state. So the state statute will govern how many years you have. You could even say, right, if you wanted to, that, you know, from O to A, but if it's not used as school, then O must re-enter within 5 years, right? You can actually put that in the agreement, right? You can say that you must exercise your right of entry in X years, or else it goes back to the present interest holder, or to a third party even. You can do either way. Yeah, Julian?
How closely do you have to read school purposes? Because the school district was using it as a storage.
Well, that came up, right? Storage. They said that fits. I think in this case they probably read a little bit more generously than usual, so the school wouldn't be out of luck. This is probably a reach. That's not what the Huttons probably had in mind.
So on an exam, how that's kind of what
I think this case is probably wrongly decided on remand. Well, we'll get to how they read it in a minute, but I think this is not school purposes in my mind. I'm a strict textualist. What can I say? Yeah, Andrew.
Texas would rule it the same way.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Actually, you're next, Andrew. So, perfect. How does the court go about reading this language? Because I mean, this language again doesn't fit into any examples we've done before. How does this language fit in? How do they read it?
As far as what school purposes is?
Well, not school purposes. Is this a fee simple determinable, or a fee simple subject to condition subsequent? How do they read it?
So they do it as a fee simple determinable.
Why? That's correct, but why?
Let's see.
Why do they read it in that fashion? What's the court's analysis of why they read in that fashion? You're right, but I'm asking why.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to find.
Well, it's there. Jolene, you want to help out?
On 291, they go over case law in Galvin, the word whenever.
Okay. Jolene, let me help you out. What's only? Why is only significant for the court here, the word only?
And we believe the word only, placed in the granting clause of the Huntley deed, brings this case under the rule of North versus Graham. North versus Graham is the reverter clause.
But just, why is only, Jolene, closer to a fee simple determinable? Why only? What does only remind you of? You know, if I said, or Miranda, let me try this. If I said, I'm giving you this, oh, you want to try? That's it, right? So you usually see the phrase, only so long as, right? You see this phrase all the time. I am giving you this cup only so long as you put coffee in it, right? So the court says is, we don't know exactly what they had in mind. But the phrase only is usually designed to say duration. Only so long as school. I get that. I think that's probably right. That I think is a better way of reading the instrument. They also put some focus on the second part, Miranda. Otherwise, to revert to grantors. What does that signify? What does that suggest?
It seems like it's more automatic than
Yeah.
what if it doesn't satisfy the school
Exactly. Very good, very good. That's right. The phrase otherwise to revert suggests it happens automatically right away. That is a possibly reverter. Indeed, possibly reverter, it uses the word revert. So again, this is probably the case where their lawyer had forgotten from first year property. So yeah, revert, whatever. Use precise words so you don't wind up in court 100 years later, okay? So this has several indications of a possibility reverter and several indications of a fee simple determinable, and the court so reads it, right? So bottom line, right? This is construed as a fee simple determinable, present interest, future interest, possibility of reverter. Therefore, when it was stopped being used as a school, if that was the case, it would go immediately to the son. But the rub in this case, and this is, I think Jolene mentioned this a minute ago, is using it for a warehouse. School purposes, Jordan. Is that school purposes? Apparently it is, right? Using it as for school property is school purposes. Therefore, the condition was violated, yes or no? No. It's not violated, and it stays with the school. So all this for nothing, right? This entire case was a waste of time. Now I'm ask Josh, wouldn't it have been easier just to decide at the outset whether the school is being used for purposes or not? Wouldn't that have been easier? You got to go in order, right? You only get to that question once you figure out the type of condition you have. You can't jump the gun. But yes, it seems a little silly, right? You have to put the cart first and then the horse, or the horse and the cart, whatever it is. Can't have order. Proving the point. So any questions on the Mahrenholz case? All right. I'm going to skip the next one. I'm probably not going to sign it next year. It makes me annoyed every year I read it. It's very complicated. There's very little good from it. So I'm just going to skip it. Don't worry about it. Let's do the questions on page 310. There are a couple of them, and we'll wrap up class with that. Yeah, I'm not. Every year I sign, I'm not going to sign it next year. I've actually crossed the line. It's not a good case. I don't know what's in the book. There are bad cases as well. All right, who's next? Megan. You want to read for me question number 1, please, on page 310?
Of course.
Thank you.
O conveys Black Acre to A and her heirs.
Okay.
If Black Acre is used for any purpose other than agricultural purposes, then O has the right to re-enter and take possession of the land.
Okay, very good. All right, so Megan, walk me through here, right? What is the present interest here? The present interest here. How do we describe the present interest?
Fee simple.
Well, first off, who has a present interest?
A and her heirs?
Okay, well, no, just A has a present interest, right?
Yes, just A.
Okay, but how do we describe A's present interest? How do we describe A's present interest?
Be simple.
Is that it? Again, Megan, walk through the comma, right? To A and her heirs, comma. So far, what do we have? Just to A and her heirs. What's that by itself?
Be simple, absolute.
Okay, but it's not a period, it's a comma, right? What comes after the comma? No, Megan, one at a time, just one at a time. Megan, what comes after the comma?
The but if.
But if. And what does but if tell us?
The be simple subject.
Okay, shh, please. Yeah, no, let her talk, yeah, exactly. It's be simple because, and her heirs. But there's a comma. Following the comma, subsequent to the comma is but if. This tells us there's A has a fee simple subject to a condition subsequent. Everyone see that? The present interest here is that A has a fee simple subject to a condition subsequent. Everyone with me? Everyone with me? All right, Megan, keep going, right? What happens next? Right? But if Blackacre is used for any other purpose, then O has the right to re-enter and take possession.
Right.
What is the future interest here? What is the future interest here? What is the future interest that follows a fee simple subject to condition subsequent?
The right of entry.
Very good. And who has the right of entry?
The grantor.
And grantor's name is?
Oh.
You're done. Good. O has the future interest, the right of entry. Okay? O has the future interest, the right of entry. And to be precise, it's a right of entry in fee simple. Because if this condition is violated, O gets it back in fee simple. Everyone get that first one? We're going to build on this in a minute. So if you don't get it, raise your hand. Present interest, fee simple, subject, condition subsequent. Future interest, right of entry, and O in fee simple. Everyone with me? Very good. All right. Anything? All right, Neiman, you want to read number 2 for me, please?
Taking the facts of problem 1, suppose that some years after the conveyance, they begin construction on several residences on Blackacre. O has died and divides his entire estate to deed. What is the state of title in Blackacre Act comment law?
Okay. And by the way, when they say, what is the state of title, that's asking what are the present and future interests. That's what they're getting at. Doesn't make as much sense. All right, Neiman. So the condition was breached. They put residences on there, right? What happens when that condition's breached?
It automatically goes back to, well, since the subsequent condition action has to be taken.
I didn't have to correct you. Very good. You got it yourself. Exactly right. With a fee simple subject to condition subsequent, when the condition's breached, it doesn't go automatically. You need to exercise the right of entry. So Neiman, again, when the condition was breached and O didn't take any action, what's the state of the title now? What's the present interest? What's the future interest here?
The present interest stays with A.
Good. And it's a
Present interest in fee simple
subject.
Condition.
There it is. The present interest is a fee simple subject condition subsequent, and it remains that until Neiman.
Right to entry.
Until the right to entry is exercised, right? So the state is the same, right? Before he said it was a fee simple subject to condition subsequent, followed by the right of entry. It's still that because the right of entry is never exercised. But instead of it being an O, it's now in, was it B, right? So now B has this right of entry. He inherited it. And to Jolene's question a few minutes ago, if he sits in his butt and doesn't exercise it, he loses it. And then A gets fee simple. Absolute. Right? If you don't exercise your right of entry after a certain number of years, you lose it. And A gets an absolute fee simple. Everyone get that? If you don't get that, yeah, Matt, please.
The period that begins the term that
I'm deliberately avoiding that question. It depends on state law. Sometimes it's when the condition's breached, And sometimes it's when he learns of the breach. So he may not learn of it till much later. So when the clock starts ticking, I actually don't care about that, right? It's actually a much tougher question. I'm just going to assume in my exam that he finds about it immediately. But as a practical purpose, very often it's when you discover it, when you should have discovered it. So if he's living abroad and has no idea, the clock won't start ticking. But just for my exam, assume immediacy, that he learns it right away. And I will make that clear in the fact pattern. But I'm not dodging your question, but that's how I'm going to dodge it. Shana, was your hand up? Same question. Oh, you go same wavelength. Very good. Yeah, Neiman.
For question 2.
Yeah.
I thought at common law you couldn't convey.
He inherited it. Devised means an inheritance, right? Where it says, "O died and devised for interest to be." That's when a will. You can do that. Even at common law, you can convey it. Testamentary. You can't convey it. What's the opposite of testamentary? There we go. Very good. Okay, everyone with me, number 2. Everyone okay with that one? All right, Brittany, you want to read number 3, please?
O conveys Blackacre to A and her heirs so long as Blackacre is used for residential purposes only.
Okay, very good. So give me, what's the present interest here?
The present interest is A has a fee simple determinable.
Very good. And what's the future interest?
The possibility of a reverter.
In, who has it?
O.
And possible reverter in?
Oh, in fee simple.
There you go. Very good. Okay. A has a fee simple determinable. O has possibly a reverter. Now, Brittany, just finish it up. What happens if A starts building some commercial residences there?
It's an automatic and immediate.
Goes to O, or O's heirs. Immediate. It cuts short. It determines. All right. Everyone with me? Okay. Okay. All right, let's do number 4. All right, Tace, you want to read number 4, please? We'll stop with 4. It'll be the last one for the day.
Taking effect of problem case occurs 10 years after the conveyance. A begins construction of the factory on Blackacre. O has died and divides trust entire estate to B.
Okay. So what is the estate now?
So now we have a fee simple.
Perfect. B inherited a fee simple absolute, right? Whether or not O took any action on it, as soon as a factory was constructed, O had now a fee simple. And that fee simple is then devised down to B. B has a fee simple absolute here. Okay? O's heirs take automatically as a fee simple. Because again, look at the chronology, right? A built a factory. Condition was breached. Then O died. By that point, O already had fee simple. Whether you knew it or not doesn't matter, but O had it. And then O divides that to B. B has fee simple common law. Questions? Questions? Yeah.
So when he comes back from Europe or whatever for Ocean and realizes
Yeah, he got fee simple. He's happy, right?
he can just go like take over the
Yeah, you might need to call the marshal about it. Guys, she's still talking. Let her finish, please, for backing up. Go ahead, please.
take over the tire factory and start running it himself or
Well, yeah, I mean, when you own a plot of land, you own not only the land, but the stuff on top of it. So when you keep property as a fee simple determinable, you better be careful not to break the condition because you're gone. There's no like lease period. You're out. All right, so let me yeah, Mike.
In that case, it could also backfire on the grantor because they could also inherit a cost of waste house.
Oh, sure, you might not want it. You can always decline a gift, right? If you inherit property you don't want, you can decline it.
Okay.
All right, let me summarize briefly this class because we did a few pages but a lot of ground. So far we studied 4 different kinds of estates. Right? The fee simple absolute, it lasts forever. The same person A has both the present interest and the future interest. And you know it's a fee simple because of the phrase to A and his heirs. Next we did, on single page now, the life estate, which lasts for the life of A. This can function in 2 different ways. If after the life it goes to the grantor, it's called reversion. If after the life it goes to a third party, it's called a remainder. Don't get those confused. Remainder, reversion. Don't mess them up. And then we have the two types of fee simple defeasibles we studied for today. Right? The only way to distinguish them is the words. There's no other way. With words of condition, so long as, during, while, until, you have a fee simple determinable. That tells you the future interest belongs to the grantor, a possibility of reverter. Okay, and that's automatic. We have a fee simple subject to condition subsequent. But if, on the condition that, however, these are conditional words. When you have that as your present interest, future is called a right of entry. Right? It's not automatic. Now, I'm going to leave you with this one thought before I let you go read for next class. In both cases, the future interest belongs to the grantor. You know that's why I did that, right? The third one, which I didn't do, the fee simple subject to the executory interest. There, the future interest is in a third party, and it gets a lot more confusing. I'll leave you there. Anything else? Cliffhanger. I'll see you all on Tuesday. Thank you very much.
So you don't actually have to use simple defeasible